Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to complete the topic that we started discussing in our last video. So yes, if you're not familiar with what I discussed last time, I would really suggest that you go to my channel and especially look at this playlist right here. And in that playlist, if you go all the way down, the last video I talked about step-by-step guide tutorial on how to create like at least a report and how to download the Pentaho report designer and create a employee vaccination report. And today what we're going to do, we're going to integrate that report into our employee vaccination management application. So it'll be fun. So we'll be done with the whole process. So just to have a quick recap, what we did last time was we downloaded a designer, then we downloaded the JDBC driver to add to the designer, then we got the check out the code, of course, and once the designer was up, from this code, we basically imported like an employee vaccine table into our MySQL database that was already there in the EVMS schema. And using that database, we wrote a query that we used in the Pentaho report designer to create a report. And then we basically just opened the report, and that was the report file, employee vaccination report.prpt. And then that report, we were able to export it from the tools, using the tools, if you remember, to any of these different formats. So what we're going to do today is that's all nice and good that if people have the software, they can run the report. But of course, in a real World Wide Web, you cannot rely on everyone having the software. You can't really send this report to everyone, and it's also not really efficient if you want to add multiple reports, more reports, and you just don't want to just do the PRPD and then send it to everyone. That doesn't make any sense, because what if you want to change it? Then you have to change the version again and then send it to everyone. So instead of doing that, it's much more efficient to add that report as part of your application, so it's coming from the server. So anytime there's a new report, it just shows up to the user. So we're going to try to integrate this report to our Java application that was built with Springboot and Thymeleaf and MySQL and jQuery and all other good technology like HTML and CSS. Let's see how you do that. The very first thing you want to do in order to save time, because there are some code changes, is go ahead, check out the current code, the final code, which would be in this URL right there. And of course, it's in the GitHub, so just check it out using git clone. And I already did it, so I'm not going to do it again. But just showing you that this is how you do it. And then what you want to do is just go to the directory. And you will see the files. And of course, I'm not going to go through this command line. I'm going to show it to you right here. So these are all the files. And I'm going to go ahead and open the project. And you can do the same, which I have done already. So I've opened the project using the Eclipse. And if you're not sure how to do that, go ahead, look at my previous tutorial, especially the tutorial number 5, I think, or later talks about, or one of these tutorial talks about, how to use those tools, how to go through basically those shoot and match to create a database and create the application and all that. All right, coming back to the application. So now what happens is we would like to run the report using our application. So how do I do that? If you recall, last time when we created the report, it was sitting on source main resources directory, which is employee vaccination report-.prpt rather. So we're going to try to load this report using the library, which is going to launch it and have all these different options on our web. That will be fun. So let's see how to do that. The very first thing we're going to do is, or I'll explain the code, because it's already there, you should be able to run it, is you go to your pom.xml, and the very first thing I have to do is add this repository, because we need to get the Pentaho classic report engine libraries, which are not part of the standard Maven repository. So you have to add this, where to find this thing. That's the first thing. And then we're going to need a couple of libraries from Pentaho, which are these that I had to add. So there is this Wizard Core and Classic Core. Now, of course, there are latest version. There's like 9.4, blah, 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 and there's even 9.3 versions that are new ones. But I just wanted to stick with the version that I used last time with the report designer. So that's why I went with this, but feel free to use different versions it may work and absolutely fine to do it. The next thing you want to do is when you do the build, now of course we have to package this .prpt file as well in the classes directory. So you need a directive to tell the Maven, hey, pick up this file from this directory. So we have to add this little piece right here as well, basically saying, hey, under resources directory, under this directory, pick up every file. So that way it will know to pick up this .prpt. Otherwise, you can run whatever you want to run, it will not find the file because we need to load this file from Java code. All right, so once we're done with our pom.xml, we move on. So the next thing to do is we need to add some menu item to see, okay, where are you going to launch the report? So let me show you something quick. So going back to our application, if you remember, this is how it looks like. There's a login page. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And now you'll see there's a new menu item. It used to be home, administration, and logout. So now we have a new menu item called vaccination report. So it's a drop-down report. There's several ways you can do it. You can even have a report link and have list of reports and have sub-menus and all that. But this was the quickest way I could do it. And feel free to do it that way, or you can do it other ways too. So when I click on this, I get all these other menus that I can export to PDF, export to Excel, export to CSV, RTF, rich text format, text files, and HTML. So that's kind of pretty easy and obvious and kind of very intuitive. So let's see, that's the first thing we're going to do is add all of this link. So going back to our code, we touched the header.html. If you remember, there was this under resources, we had templates, fragments, and we had the different pieces that made the layout, header, layout, and the footer. So header actually had all the list of menu items. So in the header section, I literally added this little thing right here. So as you can see, it's another drop down and called it vaccination report. And of course, since this is a text, we don't want to hard code it. I actually also had to update this little message properties right there. And you'll see that I added this right here, vaccine report, and also all of these little export messages right here, export to our PDF, blah, 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 blah. So let's go back to code. So here's the vaccination report, and there's a drop-down menu for each of those exports, PDF, Excel, and of course I'm getting it from that text as well. Now if you see, I have link that I specified. So when someone clicks on the PDF, it goes to /report/employee/vaccine/PDF and so on. Employee vaccine is the common one, and then XLSX, CSV, RTF, text, HTML. All of these is different format. So now we have to implement this. How do we do it? Of course, we got to define a controller, right? So this is where you will see that I added a new controller called report controller.java. Before I head to that, we also need to go and update the config to say that we have a new context directory that we will access called /report. So there, I just had to add this little piece of code right here as well, because we already had the home and vaccine type and other stuff. So I just basically said that, hey, if someone has an admin and user, they should be able to access this /report as well. That means they can only access this when they're able to log in. Otherwise, they can't get to this directory. So it's a /report/star. That means you can go to any directory after that /report. Great. Let's going back to the header. So now that we have all of this and our security can access this thing, the next step is to define the controller, right? Okay, let's look at the report controller. That's the new controller that I added. If you notice that it starts with /report and then /employee/vaccine/PDF. So there's the new report controller.java, and of course it's mapped with /report, as you could see. And there's actually only one method that's responsible for rendering all the reports. As you could see, /report/employee/vaccine/ and then format is just a path variable. So whatever you pass, PDF or XLSX or RTF or CSV, it will automatically be passed as a string format, and then it will be used in the code. So let's just examine this code quick. So one of the things it's doing is there is a new variable that I added called output type. If you look at it, it's actually an output type that I declared. It's actually an enum type variable that is declared in another class called report helper. That's where it's going to help us render the report using Pentaho Classic engine. Okay, so by default, I'm just saying that I'm going to render it in HTML if I don't see any format. Great. And that's just a switch statement, basically saying that if the PDF said that thing to the PDF enumeration type, XLSX, XLSX, and so on. And then at the end, all it's basically doing is launching the report, like making a new object of the report helper, and we'll look at that code. And then it's calling a generate report and basically passing what type of format it should create the report for. So let's go look at that code one by one. So the very first thing it's doing is calling this report helper. So that's the constructor. So let's go look at this code right there. That's report helper.java. And here's the constructor. All the constructor is doing, this is the default one. And right now I have only one report, so I kind of hard-coded this in identifier employee vaccination report. If you remember, that was the name of our PRPT file. So it's employee vaccination report.prpt. That was the report file. So we're going to work with that. So the empty constructor, all it does, it basically says that, hey, launch my employee vaccination report, or pass that on. And then there's the overloaded constructor. It takes that report name, and then in the Pentaho report classic engine, the way the process goes is it's actually a very lightweight component, meaning it doesn't have any require a server. Well, it doesn't have a server by itself, whereas it requires the like the WebLogic or application server like Tomcat or any other servers, but it just runs as part of the server. It doesn't require its own server. That's what it means by lightweight. So this is just starting the Pentaho report classic engine. Then of course it needs to find that PRPT file. So here is the report ID name, employee vaccination report.prpt is basically trying to get that resource from the class path, which you'll find it because it's under resources on the root directory. So then it takes the URL, and the URL is fed through basically the Pentaho resource manager, and eventually what you get is a master report object. So that PRPT file gets loaded into the memory as a master report object. So that's what this code is basically doing. Fairly simple. After that, if you go back to the controller code, then it generates the report, right? And it takes the output type with a different format. So let's go look at that method. So there's that method right here. All that method is returning is a response entity and with the input stream resource. And that's exactly what my controller expects as well. So that's why it's pretty much compatible. So all this thing is doing is, if you look at it, it's taking the output type. And by the way, this output type, as I was telling you, it's an enumeration that I defined right here. Just different formats. Simple enum of Java. Okay, so then it's creating basically the file name. So the report format is nothing but, the file name extension would be nothing but the format's lowercase name, right? The .pdf or .xlsx. So that's what this is. And then it's generating the file name based on whatever the name of the report is, which is, it's going to be employed as vaccination-report.pdf or .xlsx. So that's why it's just creating the file name dynamically. That's what the file that would be exported to the user. And again, here same thing, this default media type, you have to specify what's the MIME type, what's the type of file you're exporting to the web or to the user on the web. So by default it's going to be text HTML, and this media type is part of the Spring Framework's media type class that you can use. That's what it will expect when you're exporting it back. And then we're basically using a buffered output stream because you need to stream out that when you create the report, when the Pentaho creates the report, it requires an output stream. Byte output stream is just basically faster. So that's what we like to use, and that's also what Springboot uses when you're trying to like export different types of file out on the web. So all this is doing is initializing the output stream, and if you see based on the output type, PDF, if it's PDF, then I'm just setting the media type, the MIME type to be application/PDF, or XLSX application/octet stream. CSV, it's a regular text, HTML or regular text, or RTF is nothing but application octet stream. I think here you could just do plain text as well. That would have worked as well. And then the text type is nothing but text plain. And each of these, if you look at it, this is not my code. This is code coming from the Pentaho report engine. So Pentaho report engine very nicely provides us the utility. All you got to do is say utility create PDF give me the master report, what the report is. This is the report that got loaded, and what's the output stream they want me to dump the report to. So it's very simple. Same thing. Excel, same thing. You get an Excel utility, give me the master report, and give me the output stream, and it exports it. CSV, same thing. Give me the master report, and tell me the output stream, and this is just another parameter. This we don't need to worry about it for now. Just say no. RTF, same thing. Give me the master report and give me the output stream, and I'll export it. So these are all Pentaho Report Classics Engine's API. So I have not done anything. And the beauty about this is it's all free. It's an open source. There's nothing I've done extra to create all of this different format other than just using the code. And then text is got to do a little bit more work. I mean, it's not no big deal. Just getting a text printer driver and getting the output, pageable text output processor, and then just eventually dump that whole thing into an output stream. But anyway, it's not a big deal. And of course, the default, as you see, if none of this thing passes, I'm just defaulting it to HTML. So they also have an HTML generator out of that report. So that's what I'm doing. It's really simple. And then here, again, it's not to go too much details, but we're just setting the header. And you have to set the header the right way, especially the content disposition, because you're trying to set the file or some kind of file, exporting it to the user. So the browser needs to know that how should it present it. Should it present it as an online, inline basis, or should it present it as an attachment? I think the difference is one that downloads it, and the other one kind of comes it as part of the page. So that's the difference. So all here I'm saying is if it's an HTML, just make it part of the page. And if it's not an HTML, just go ahead and download it. That's what this is saying. Setting the content disposition, inline versus attachment. And then setting it in the header. And then the last thing is we're just sending the response. .ok, set the header, and setting the right content type. And at the end of the day, the body is nothing but getting a new input stream resource out of that output stream and turning it into the array, byte array, and sending it back as a byte array input stream. Fairly simple. So that's it. And this is just an exception that is catching the exception if something bad happens. I'm just setting the error message saying unable to view the report. That's it. So yeah, it looks a whole bunch of code, but actually if you look at it compared to what the whole process will be doing, exporting report in different format, it's nothing. It's very simple code, and the best thing is it's all free. That you're getting this out of the box as part of the classic engine, as part of the open source. Okay, so now that's all said and done. Let's go and run the report. See how it looks. So now if I go to vehicle report, export to PDF, I'm going to go ahead and click on this, but let me just make this thing a little bit smaller so that you can kind of watch what goes on the background. So actually I'm going to go ahead and make this thing a little bit bigger. So you kind of, actually just make this big enough. And then let's go ahead and launch this guy right here. You can watch how this thing gets launched and all the output that's out there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on export to PDF. There you go. It starts the report generating process. It's going to start the engine. Eventually you will download it here. You'll see it. The first report always will take some time because it has to boot the engine. There you go. So it actually launched the PDF right here, as you can see. So nice right here. And it launched in a new window, which is great. So it is PDF, and you can of course save it or whatever. Close it, so it's done. And then let's go try the other ones, XLSX. And again, it's gonna pick up, go through all that code, process your Excel, and it will launch it. And it's pretty fast. Here, as you can see, it launches, so you can just click on it. And there's your Excel right there, the exact same report. I didn't do a single change, it's the same report format. And then moving on, I can do it in CSV. The beauty of this is now it's running from the web, hooked up with our application, and did the CSV pretty simple. It's just a comma separated value file open in Excel. But you can see that this is just a plain comma separated value file that we generated. It's great. And let's move on. The rich text format, that's going to open it in Microsoft Word, I believe. There it is. This is our TF file. It's coming up. Come on. There you go. So it came up in rich text format, so like a Microsoft Word. You can use it in Microsoft Word. So there it is. And then you can do text, and of course text is just a plain text. Nothing fancy, it's just a plain text file that it creates. You can create as well. And the HTML, it opens up in a new window, of course, and it's just plain simple HTML. The whole report came out like that. So as you can see that you can use the Java-based Springboot, Thymeleaf, MySQL, and with the other Java-based open source technologies like Pentaho Report Classic Engine to seamlessly export a report into any format. And the beauty of this is it's free code and it works pretty well and it's extremely fast. So that's all for today. If this video has added any value to your day-to-day skills, please do not forget to subscribe and hit the like button, and also hit the bell icon so that it notifies you whenever there's a new video like this. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye now.